Hello and welcome back. This is Code with SDM here, and in today's videos I'll be sharing with you on how you are going to create your Laravel 12 Crud operation application with all modern required concepts. So here in this video, it will be an amazing video which will be a more detailed and more beginner friendly application or tutorial that I'm going to build. And it contains all of the required modern features. The first one that we are going to have is a user to be able to add the new product. As you can see here, I have the list of product and I have the categories. So on product side, we have the list of products that you can see here. We have the product name, category, quantity, price, status, and description. And you can see we have a list of and a bunch of product, and down here we have this amazing pagination feature that we have added in our application, and I'm going to share with you on how you can add it in your Laravel 12 application. So now the user can be able to add the new product, can be able to show, edit, and delete. But also the user can be able to search for the products by searching for the name and the description fields. Also, the user can be able to see the list of deleted product. So when I say the list of deleted product, here I mean we are going to learn on how you are going to use the concept of soft delete in your Laravel 12 application. Other than that, we're also going to show you how you are going to deal with image upload and image and file system management, because in here the user, when creating a new product, can be able to upload the image for that product, and when you will be updating that image, when you will be updating the product, you can also update the image, and instead of the old image to remain in your file system, we are going to delete the old image and replace it with the new created or uploaded image. But when you delete the product, the related image for that product will be deleted too. So these are the key features that you are going to find in this amazing tutorial that I believe every developer, as a beginner, you should be able to understand, and this will give you an amazing foundation to your next big ideas using Laravel. So without wasting any time, let me just show you how this simple application works. So first of all, I'll start by showing how you can be able to add a new product. So let's go to the add new product. So this is the form that I've created. And another amazing thing that we are going to learn is how you are going to create more reusable code. So for example, this form that we have used here in add new product is the same form that we are going to use in edit product. So meaning that we will create the reusable code by not pretending the dry method. So we are going to avoid repeating ourselves when creating the code. So by saying so, let me just show you on how you are going to create your first product. So for example, I'll just add some data which will be dummy data. So for example, here I can upload an image. So let me just show you how I'm going to upload the image. So for example, I'll just upload this one here, and now I can say save, and now you can see the product has been added successful, and this will be the latest product that I've added. And now if I go to show, here you can see the image that I've uploaded will be shown here. We have the name, description, price, quantity, category, and the status. So the user can be able to edit or cancel. So when you click back, it will direct you back to this page. But if you go again in show, you can go directly to edit from here. So here you can see this is our edit form, and you can see the edit form is the same as the create form. So meaning that we have used the don't repeat yourself in this project, so that's why you can see this project will be a little bit long. So it contains a lot of basic foundations of Laravel, so that's why I've tried to be more detailed and more explanatory in everything that I'm doing. So here the user can be able to update the image. For example, we can update the image from this one, let's say, to another image that I want to change, let's say to this one, and then I want also to change this one. So from April, let's say I just want to say this will be April, May. Okay, and now let me save. Okay, let's choose the process, which will be the category, and then re-upload the image. For example, I just want to re-upload this one and then save. And now you can see product updated successfully. Here you can see April, May, and when we go to show, you can see the image has been updated to this new image, and the previous or old image has been changed. So that's how easy you can just do that. And now here on the form, you can see the validations are working as we expected. So you can see there is full form validation, and I'm going to share with you on how you are going to add the validations. You can cancel and it will direct you back here, but also you can be able to search for the product. For example, I can search for this one, and here you can see no any data match that search parameter. So now, for example, let me search for, let's say, this one. So let me just copy that one and then paste it in our search field, then search, and now you can see it shows all the related field. So this, you can see it searches for the product name and also for the description. So for example, I can just search for this one in order to be more specific. Let's see if that one will give us the good. Okay, so you can see still we get those a lot of those products. So let me just find another one. Let's say, let me search for the April, and then search, and now you can see we have only the one that we have created. So here we can be able to delete that product. So for example, I want to delete, so I'll say yes, and now you can see product deleted successful, and here you don't see that product, and we can be able to search for the April, and here you can see no any data that is found. So after doing so, let me just show you how you are going to see the deleted products. So to see the deleted product, I've added this button here, which redirects you to the deleted product list. So for example, when I click that one, you will see here it says deleted products, and here we have only one deleted product, and we can see the product. So we can see the product list, which is this one, and as you can see here it says show delete trash the product, which is this one, and here you can see that is the deleted product. And here on the deleted, you can be able to restore this product and also to delete it permanent. For example, let's restore it. So let's try to restore, and then now you can see the product restored is successful, and here you have that product and you have the other data. So we can just delete it again. Okay, and when we go to the deleted, we can be able to delete that product completely. So for example, if I delete, now here it will be gone. When you go to deleted, you can see no any data is found. So if we go back to view all products, this is how it looks like. You can travel back to page number 14, and you can see here the page number 14 in your URL tab. You can go back to page number 2, number 9, and each will be responding as expected. So that's how easy and this amazing tutorial will be. So after saying so, let's go direct to the coding part and start to code the amazing tutorial. Alright, so let's go direct to the first step, which will be creating our Laravel 12 application. So I'll open my Git bash right here. Let me zoom a little bit so that you can see what I'm typing. So I'll run this command that is from Laravel installer. So I'll say Laravel new, then the name of our project, which will be Laravel 12 Crud. Then I'll say enter, and then this will start to create our new Laravel 12 application. So if you find that your application does not have these 4 options, meaning that you don't have the latest version of Laravel installer, so you can just reinstall the Laravel installer so that it can give you the latest version of Laravel and also the latest version of starter kits. So in this tutorial we are not going to use any starter kit, so I'll just say none, and then I'll say paste. Yep, so now it will start to create our application, which will be Laravel 12, as you can see here. So here the application has been started to be created. So let's give it a time so that it can be able to copy all the files from the Laravel repository, and then we will continue with that installation part. Okay, so now you can see this will ask you if you want to change the database, because by default it will be SQLite. So for now I'll just choose MySQL. So I'll just say MySQL, and then before I run this I need to start my control panel for XAMPP. So let me just start this. So now you can see we have the Apache and the MySQL server up and running. So meaning that when we run the migrations, the database will be created in our database. So now let's say yes. And as you can see, the database have been created and also have been running. So you can see that is running. So now let's wait for the update of the paste and everything. When it will be done, we will continue this part. And then this will ask you if you want to run the npm install and the npm run build. Yeah, because in this tutorial I'm not going to use Tailwind CSS, so I'll not run that one, so I'll say no. And now we need to open our project in our VS Code, so I'll just open it in my Casa IDE. So let me go to Casa IDE. So here I'll open the project like this way. So I'll open with Casa. So here we are in our Casa IDE, and here you can see this is our newly created application. You can see here we are using Laravel Framework 12. So this is the version of Laravel. So now the first step, let's run our application and see if it's running as we expected. So let's run this one, php @serve, which will start the local development server of Laravel, and then let's open this in our browser. So here you can see this is our newly created Laravel 12 application, which is up and running. Now let me go to the next terminal, and in here I want to create a simple model that we are going to use to test our PHP Crud operation Laravel 12 application. So PHP @ make model, then I'll just deal with product, because in this tutorial I'm going to cover the Crud operation including the image upload and the media management, meaning that when you upload the media, when you delete the data, we should also delete the image or the file that you uploaded with that data. So I'll just show you that in a minute. So now let's create this model. Okay, now I've created the model with migration. So when I give this -m, meaning that I want to create a model, which is our model class with its migration. So let me just show you. Now we'll have two new files. The first one will be the model, which will be found inside the models here. This will be the product model, and inside the database directory, inside the migrations, you will have this another file. Okay, so here, after creating this migration file, we need to provide the required fields for our product. So the first one will be the name, which will be a string field with the name of our product. Then the second one will be the description. So let's give it the string. Then it should be description. And this can be nullable, means that when it's not there, we can allow the null data. And also we are supposed to have the quantity. So let's give it the quantity. So this should be integer, and this should be quantity. And then we need to have the category. So let's give the category, which will be a foreign ID, which will be category ID, which will be constrained. And here I'll say it will be constrained on the table that we are going to create, which is called the categories. Okay, and then on delete, we can cascade. Okay, so that is category ID. Let me close the sidebar. And then after having the quantity, here we can have the price. We can have float price. And also we need to have the image of our product. So let's give the string, and here it will be image. And then we need to have the string, the status. So let's give it the status here. So I'll just say integer, or let me just use enum field, and here I'll say status, and I'll have two status, the active and inactive. Okay, and then the default will be active. Okay, yeah, so these are the fields that we are going to need. So now let's create the category table. So let's create that one. Here I'll say create model category. So this will create the class and the migration, as I have said in my previous descriptions. So here you will see you will have the category, which is this one, and here in migration you will have this category table. But here if you try to run this migration, Laravel will throw an error because product have the field which acts as a foreign key, which is category ID, but the table that it references is created after the creation of products table, which is not as expected. So what we need to do, we need to make sure that this table is created before the product, because this acts as a parent table and this acts as a child table. So you need to create this first, then the second table will be created. So now let's move this one up here by changing the year here. So I'll just rename it. So I'll just come here and change to 2024. And now you can see the category is above the product. So meaning that the category will be created first, then the product will follow. So now we can have the name of our category, and we can have the, let's say, the status. So you can have the enum, and here you can say status. If that category is used, it will be active. So here we'll have active and inactive, and the default one will be active as usual. Okay, then after that we need to run the migrations so that these two tables will be created in our database. So let's just come here, let's clear the table, the terminal, then run the command. So let me zoom a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing. PHP @ migrate. So you can see the categories table and products table created successful and no error that has been thrown. So now we need to find a way to see the tables. So here, because I'm using MySQL as before, let me just show you in my .env file. So here I've used the MySQL database connection. So here means that when I'll go to XAMPP and open the admin center for MySQL, you'll be able to see the tables that we've created. So the name of our database is Laravel 12 Crud. So let's see. So here you can see this is our database, which is PHP myadmin. And then here in Laravel, if you expand that, you will find the database that we've created, which is called the Laravel 12 Crud. So let's open that one. Okay, and here you can see we have the categories table, and also we have the products table. So now the other concept that I want to show you in this tutorial, I want to show you how you are going to manage the soft delete functionality in your Laravel application. So let me just show you. So to add the soft delete concept, let me just start by adding this to your migration. So let's add the soft deletes, and here this will help us that when the user will delete a data, it will not be deleted completely in your database, so that it will add another column which is called the deleted at, and that will make the Laravel automatically will trigger the query scope, which is called the soft delete, which will handle that functionality. Means that it will only retrieve the data that does not, or that have null value in the deleted at. So I'll just show you that in a minute. So let me just show you. So let me copy this and add it the same way in our product table. So let me just add it here, and then I'll explain in more detail when we'll start to work on the code. So now, after adding those two fields, let me just rerun the migrations. So I'll just say migrate fresh. Okay, so that will rerun the migrations. And now if I open any of these tables, let's say for example if I open the products table, now you will see we have the new field which is called deleted add. So this will help us to work with the soft deletes. So now, after adding these soft deletes here, you need also to add that in your models. So let's go to the model. Let's go to the model. Let's start with the product model. And here you're going to say use soft deletes, like that way, and make sure you have imported that here from Eloquent database so that it can be actually used. So this, if you don't know how to use the soft deletes, you can go and check it from the Laravel documentation. So here you can find it by searching for soft deletes. So you can just find the more explanations from here. So for example, you can search for query scopes. So if you go to query scopes, here you will find the concept of soft delete, which is this one. So here, this link I'll share with you in my video description so that you can understand how the soft deletes works. So that's all. And now, after adding this in our product model, let's add it again in our category model. So let's say use soft deletes. Okay, remember to import that one. And now let's create the protected fillable variable. And here in category we have the name and also we have the status. So let's add the status. We have the status field, and then we need to go and add the same way in our product. So we have the product protected fillable variable, and here we are going to have the name, we are going to have the description, we are going to have the quantity, we have the category ID, we have price, and we have the status, and let's see from here. So we have name, description, quantity, price, image, status, and category ID. So we will forget the image. So image, and then we can close the array, and that will be done. Okay, now we need to add the relationship from here to category. So we'll say public function category, and this will be a one-to-many relationship. So we'll say this category belongs to category class, which is our model. And when you go to this model, you need to create the relationship that you will be representing the products. That will be the product, and in one category you have many products. So one category may contain many products. So that's why here you see we use as many, but when you go to the product we use belongs to, meaning that the relationship from category to product is one to many. So meaning that one category can have more than one product. So that's all. And now we have set up our database successful. So now let's go and start to code our application. So after that, let's start by creating the layout of our application, and we are going to create the routes for starting to deal with the application. So let's go to the resources, then views. Then here we are going to create a new folder or directory which is called the layouts, and inside that layouts I'm going to add a new file which is called layout.blade.php, and in here we are going to create a simple HTML5 file, and here I'll just say Laravel 12 Crud, and here for styling I'm going to add Bootstrap 5. So let me just go here, and this is Bootstrap 5, and here this is the site for Bootstrap 5. So let me go direct to the documentation and be able to start by copying this file and reuse it in your application. So let me just paste it here. So meaning that this will have the bootstrap.css, which is used for styling, and it will have the bundled JavaScript for JavaScript functionality of Bootstrap. So here let me change again to Laravel Crud, which is Laravel 12. Okay, now the next part, because this will be the layout file, meaning that we have to add the yield directives, which will here will say all the files that will be extending this file will be using the content as the section that they are going to use to pass their data. Okay, so now this will be the layout. So this is how you create your layout in Laravel 12, and then the next part is to create another directory which will be organizing our product related files. So here will be product, and here I'll have another directory which is called the category. Okay, so now the next step is to create the page that we are going to create the CRUD operation for the products. So now let's add a new file which is called the product list.blade.php. Let's change this one. Let's rename it so that it can be, it's not Blade. Change this one to Blade. Okay, so now this is good. So now, in order for us to be able to extend this file, we need to use the extend directive, which is this one, and here we are going to extend the layout, which will be layouts.layout.blade.php. so that will be automatically referenced, as you can see. So now here in our section, let's use the section directive, and here we are going to pass the content because that is what we define here. So that's the content right here. So this section means that will be the section for managing your product list. So now we need to create the controller so that we can be able to show this page in our view. So now let's create the controller. Let me clear the terminal and run this command, php @make controller, and I'll call it product controller. And the other way around, that you can create the controller automatically based on your model. So when you are creating your model, let's say you are creating the php @make model, and then let's say you create, let's give an example for you are creating a model like post. So you can create the migration plus the controller. So when you run that command, it will create the controller with the model with the migration. So you don't need to create the controller separately. So now if you visit the HTTP, then the controllers, you'll find that controller is automatically created. You'll have the post model, and also you'll have the migration in your migrations file. So you can see this is how it works. So I'm not working with the post, I'm just showing how easy you can just create the controller with the way that you are creating your model. So now let's go direct and start to show the page in our view. So now let's go to the controller, which is our product controller right here. And here we are going to create the index function. And here we are going to create the product, the function which is called index, which will be the function regarding the showing the product list. So now here let's create the list of products. So we are going to say products, and then we are going to call the model, that is product, and then we are going to call all of the products from our database. Now we are going to return a view, which will be the view that we are expecting to show it in for our users. So now here give the path that is correct, because if you go here to the resources, the product view, which is product list, is found inside the product directory, then product list.blade.php. So here we need to give that path. So we need to reference the product directory first. So product, then dot, which will reference then the directory. So then we have to mention the product list. Okay, so meaning that this will reference the file that we want. And then here in a compact, this will be the data that we are passing to this view. Okay, so now we are going to have the ability to see the product in our page. So for now, in our page here, we are going to use a table from Bootstrap. So let me just create a container, and then inside that container I'm going to create the card. So let me just create card, and inside that card I'm going to create card header. So here I'm going to say product list. Okay, and from that I want to create a direct web route. So let's go to the web.php file, and here we are going to create a new route, which will be route get. Then we are going to say product, let's say products, and then here we are going to pass the controller that we have, which is called the product controller. So then we are going to pass the function or the method from that controller, which is called the index. Okay, and the route name we are going to call it product.index. Okay, so now let me close this again. So this is how the route will be in your route file, which is web.php file. So now if we visit this link, so let's go to the page here. As you can see, now let's visit the products page, and now you can see we have the product list. So if you can see, this is the product list. So that's how easy you can just reference your pages by using the controllers and route and the combination of the file, which is a Blade file. Okay, so now here we are going to say, instead of just having this text, I want to give it a little bit font. So let me give it heading 2. So let me just copy that one and paste it here. And now if we refresh, you will see we will have this a little bit bigger text. So let me reset to this way. Okay, so now after having this one, what we can do from Bootstrap, you can just use, instead of creating this one, you can have the navigation bar. So let me just show you. So you can visit the navigation bar here on components. You have the navigation bar, and we can just use something like this one. So let me just show you how to use it. So what I'll do, I'll just copy this one. I'll copy this one, and then in our layout, I'm going to paste this one. So let's go to the layout file, which is this one, and here I'm going to paste the code that I've copied from there. Okay, and then this yield will come down here. Okay, so now if we go here and refresh, now you can see the navigation bar will be on top, as you can see, and then here you will have the product list. So now we need to add that link on this navigation bar. So what we are going to do, because here we have the home, the link and drop down, so I want to change this one to be product. So let's say products, and here we'll have category. Okay, and I don't want this drop down, so I'll just remove that one and this disabled one. So let me just remove those two. Okay, now if we go back and refresh, now you can see we have the product and categories, and this, instead of being navigation bar, we may keep it as Laravel Crud. So we can just say Laravel Crud, or if you want, you can just reference. You can just reference the application name of your file or of your product. So let's say you can just say config, then you can say application name. So let's give it this one. Okay, and now if we go back into refresh, now you can see the product, the project name will be displayed there. Okay, but if you want more control here, you can just say, instead of just referencing it from the configuration, and this will be not good if the user will reference it from the .env file. So you need to reference the one from .env file, because here the user can change that file, that name. So for example, if you can say Laravel 12 Crud, means that this will not change right here. Okay, so it has been changed. Okay, yeah, because this .env file is referenced in your configuration file, so that will automatically change the name. Okay, so here you can see the name has been updated since we have updated the name from .env file. So here you can see this will update the name in your .env file. Okay, so now if you see here, we need to change this one, and I want to reference this one to the application name. So to do so, go to the layout file, and here in the nav bar, we may want to reference the application name by checking the config, and then here we are going to use the app name, which is this one, and then from there the name will change to the name of our application, which is Laravel. And now if user change that name from .env file like this way and decided to use another name, let's say Laravel 12 Crud, the name should be reflected from here. Okay, so now you can see we have Laravel 12 Crud, and you have the products and the categories. And the products and categories, we need to reference the fields from there. So now here on the products, we need to say products. Okay, and then from categories we need to say categories. Okay, so here it should be categories, right? So now let's go back here and refresh. Now if you visit this one, will direct you to this one, and when you go to this one, will not be found because we didn't create that path already. So now let's go back and start to show the product listing here, and also having the add new here, which will be the add new button right here. Okay, so now let's go back here, and here in our product list inside the card down here, we need to create the card body. So let's create the card body, and here we need to have the table. So I'll just copy one of the table from Bootstrap. So let me find it from here. So tables, let me just use the simple one. Okay, so let's find the simplest one. Okay, so let me copy the first one, and then we will use the striped. So here I'll have that table, and if we go back here and refresh, now you can see we have the table list, and now we need to make sure that the table is striped so that it can be a little bit good. So let's say table striped. Refresh, and now you can see the table looks a little bit nice. So now let's just leave the, here you can see we have the table header and we have the table body. So now let me collapse this one and this one, and let's just leave the last one. So let's remove the first two lines, which are table rows. And now if I refresh, this is how it looks like. So now let's change this one to the product fields. So here we are going to have the, so this will remain as the number, which will generate it automatically by using Laravel. And here we need to have the product name. So we are going to say product name. We are going to have the category, and we are going to have the quantity. We are going to have price. We are going to have the status, and the last one will be the description. So let's just give the description. Okay, so now here we need to have the same number of columns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here we have only 4. So we need to add 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then here this should be created based on the data that we have in our database. So here we are going to have the if condition. So I'm going to use the if else. So what we are going to do here, we are going to check the value that is returned from the controller here, which is this one. So if it's not 0, so what we are going to say, we are going to check the count of products. If it's greater than 0, we are going to pass that table row there. So let me just copy the table row, let me cut it and paste it inside here. So before that, you need to have a for each row like that way, and here we are going to paste the for each loop. So when the product value will be greater than 0, we are going to loop through each product like this way, and then we are going to give here the product, and then this one will be the one that will be shown here. Okay, and now let's try to show the real data here. So before that, in else, when the product will be not greater than 0, meaning that it will be empty, here we can just have the table row, and inside it we can have the table data, and then we are going to say no data found. And now if we go back here and refresh, now you can see no data found, but this column should be expanded up to here. So to do so, we are going to use the column span, and we are going to have 7 because that is the number of columns right here. So if you do that, you can see no data found, or you can just place it to the center by saying class, then you can say text center. Now you can see it shows here no data found. Okay, so after doing so, we are going to change these fields to the real data. So what we are going to do, the first one that shows the number, we are going to use the loop iteration, okay, which will show the number of products. So instead of showing the ID that is coming from the database, you can just use this way to show the number, which will hide the real ID from your users. And then we are going to show the product name right here. So it will be product, meaning that this will reference from here. So here we are going to say name, and here we are going to say product category. So from category means we need to use the category, which will be the relationship that we defined, and here we are going to reference the name. So the category, this one is the relationship. If you go back to the product, here you can see we have the category relationship. So that will be the one to be used here when you reference the name of the category. And then we are going to reference the quantity, and we are going to reference the price, and the next one will be so let me just do this way, will be status, and the last one will be description. So let me remove that one, and then this one should be description. Okay, so now here you can see we don't have any data in our database. That's why you don't see anything. So for example, if we come here and insert a new row, let's say for example you can say test product, and description you can just say test description, quantity you can just say 10, price we can just say, let's say 500, image we can just keep it is empty, category ID we can just search for category, but still we don't have any category, so we can just say 1, and let's see if that works. Yeah, actually it will not work because category will be empty, so meaning that we can create the category first. So let's create the category first. For example, let's insert a new category, which will be Crud. So let's say clothes, and now let's create that value, and then let's go back to the product table and insert a new value, which will be test product, and we are going to say test description, the first product, quantity which will be 10, price which will be 500, and then the category we are going to select the process. So now let's create that, and if we go back to the view and refresh, now you can see we have the list of the product that we've created. So now this is how it looks, and it looks just fine. So now let's add here the functionality for our user to be able to create the new product. So to do so, okay, so to add a add button here on our page, let's go direct to the code, and here inside the card header we are going to add a row so that this will be in the same row with that button. So let's add the row right here. So it will be row, then inside that row we are going to create 2 columns. So I'll just say 2, then this will create 2 columns automatically. So this will be on the first column, and on the second column is where we are going to create our button. So I'm going to use an anchor tag, which I'll create product. I will say that will be our new route, and here I'll say add new, and now if you refresh, you will see that link here. So I want to make that link to be floating on the end. So let me just style it with the Bootstrap. So I'll say float end, and after refreshing, now you can see the link is spaced or it is located on the edge of this card. So now let's make this to be a button. So I just say button, then button success. So it looks like that now, and then what we are going to do next is to shift this search input here in this button to be also inside this list. So let's do that, because that is found on the layout file. So we are going to fetch it from here. So let's fetch this one, cut, and then here on the, make sure that is inside the header. So here you have this row, and you have the first column and the second column. So here before the button for adding new, let's have the button for search. So this actually is a form, so let's leave it that way. And then now if you go back to your browser and refresh, you should see something like this. So this one and this one should be on the same row. So what we are going to do next is to create another row inside this column, and then we create 2 columns. Okay, and then what we are going to do next is to cut this form and place it inside the first column, and then on the second column we are going to cut this button for creating, and then we are going to paste inside there. So right now this is how the form looks like. So after that, let's go back and refresh, and now you can see the search will be here and the button will be here. So now the search, we need to add its length a little bit, because now it is just divided into 2 parts. So let's divide it like this way. So here we will say, let's say medium, let's say 8, and then the remaining, which is 4, will be for the button. Let's say this way, and then let's try again. Now you can see the width is increasing, and now I believe that is enough for now. So meaning that this will help us to search for our products right here. And now let's go back and try to create the route for us to be able to create a new product. So now let's go to the controller first here. let's create a public function create, and then what I'm going to do next, okay, it will be like this way. So that will be our function. So inside the create function, this will just return a view. So we are going to say return view, and then this view we need to create it on our product directory. So let's go to the resources, views, then product. Here inside this directory we are going to create a new file called the create.blade.php, and inside here remember to extend the layout. It should be right like that way, and then the file of your layout. So the file of our layout is layout, and the directory that kept this file is called the layouts. So that way, and then create a section. So use the section. So these are just the Laravel directives, and if you don't know how to use these directives, I'll be posting some videos concerning with the different directives so that you can be able to manipulate them within your Blade files. Okay, so here inside the section, remember to pass the yield function that we have in our layout, because in our layout we have this content which is found inside the yield. So it's the same one that we have used here on the list. So hopefully we are going to use again here. So here you can see the content. Now here inside this one we need to create a form. So let's create a form with post method. Okay, and then inside that form I'm going to add some fields that we are going to use. So let me just generate those fields to simplify the work, and then I'll explain everything. So here inside the create file we need to generate the fields. So here I'll paste some of the fields. So if I go back here, I'll explain it one by one so that you can understand what I'm doing here. So here you can see I have the first field that is inside the div, which have the class of margin bottom of 3, meaning that I'll be adding some margin on the bottom side of each field. And then I have the label for each field. As you can see here, I have the product name label, I have the description, and inside each field, as you can see, this input type text, and I give the name which is corresponding to our database fields, and we have the value. Here on the value you can see I have this function which is called the old, and here you can see it kept the value of the field which is name, and here you can see, and you may ask yourself like why I have this value as default. Is because at the end of the day I want to make this form to be reusable, meaning that we can use it in create and the same way in edit. So to make this form reusable, what I'm going to do, instead of having this field directory here, what I'm going to do, I'll just remove them from here. Okay, so we'll have something like this, and then I'll show you here on the product directory. I'm going to create another new file which is called the form.blade.php. So, and this is why I said this tutorial is not just an ordinary Crud operation application. So it contains a lot of concepts that are more usable in your modern applications that you're going to build with Laravel. So this is one of the best practices of using Laravel. So you don't repeat yourself. So you follow the concept of dry. So don't repeat yourself when you are creating your projects. So now after pasting that code inside the form.blade.php file, here we are just going to reference it by using the include directive. Okay, and here we are going to reference that it found on product directory, and then the file is called the form.blade.php. so here it will be referenced automatically. So now let's go and create the path or the route for this one. So here we need to say the view that we are going to reference is called the actually it's found inside the product, then the file is called the create. Okay, so this will reference to this field, to this form, which is this file actually, and then this file have this file which is referenced from here. Okay, so now let's go back here, and this is how it looks like. Now let's go to the web.php. Okay, and here let's create that route here. So we are going to say create product, and here we need to pass the name of a function or method that we are going to use. Okay, so the name should be create because that is the one that we have here, which is this one. So here we are going to reference that way, and then the name we can say create, let's say product dot create. Okay, so it will be that way, and then let me add this forward slash right here. So remember, this is the one that we added in our list, which is our product list right here, you see, which is this one. Okay, so now after doing that, let's go back to the view, which is our browser, and refresh, and now let's click add new, and now you can see this is how the form looks like. Okay, but we may need to style it a little bit more so that it can look nice. So now let's go to the create.blade.php file, and here we are going to use the container, and inside that container is where we are going to paste this form to be inside, and we can just make it to be inside the card, and then we can just have the card header. Here we are going to say add new product. Okay, and then we are going to copy that, we're going to cut it actually, and then we are going to create a card body, and then inside that card body is where we are going to place our form. So now if we go back here and refresh, at least you can see the form looks nice. So you can continue to style it more and more. For example, you can place the field to be side by side. For example, this one and this one should be, let's say, one in this column and the other in the other column. So for the sake of our video, I just want to make it simple, so I'll end there. And now let's try to add the validation for our form. So here on the form, actually here we are going to use, here we are going to pass the route. So here, by using the route function, we are going to reference the route that we are going to create for storing our data. So let's create that new, which will be store product, and then here we are going to use the method called the store, and this should be product store. So this is the one that we need to reference in our form right here. So it will be like that way, and then what we need to add in our form is to add a srf, which is the directory that works by preventing the cross-site request forgery. So you may need to add this one, because when you do not add this one, actually the form will not be submitted, and you will be in a danger of having issues with the attacking and some kind of security issues in your Laravel forms. So remember to add this in order to protect your forms. Okay, now the next thing that we need to add, if you can observe in our form, we have this product image field, which you type in this file and it uploads the image to our form, but it shows the image if the image is present in our database. So by showing you that means that the form is required to add another attribute, which is called the enc type, and we need to add the multi-party form data. So let's add that one like this way. So this will allow your form to be able to manipulate the files that you are going to upload to your system. Okay, so now if you go back and refresh again, so this will be able to upload the files to your form. Okay, so now the next thing that we are going to do is to add the validation in our form, because here we need to add the store function, and here we need to make sure that this will validate our form is required. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a variable which is called the validated, and then we are going to create rules that we are going to use to validate our data. So here the first field will be the name that we will make it to be required. Okay, and then we are going to make it to be accepting string, so let's give it string, and then we are going to give another field which is price. Actual price is required, and it should be numeric, so we can just make it numeric. And here before price we need to have the description, okay, which will be nullable, but it should be string. And we have the quantity, which should be also numeric. Okay, and we need to have the category, which will be the category ID, which in our form here you can see I have that category, which is this one. So we may need here to show the category ID, not just category. So here it will be just category, then this should not be the input which this way, so we need to make it to be a select field. So let's make it select, and here we are going to call it category ID. So here inside it we are going to have something like this. So let me just copy it from here, and then I'm going to paste it here. Let me delete the last one. Okay. And now instead of having the status right here, we are going to say category ID. But this is supposed to come from the categories. So here we may need to have the list of categories. So we are going to say categories, and here we are going to call all the categories, and here we are going to reference them like that way in a compact function. And then here on the form we may need to reference that in our form. which is this one. So here inside this we are going to have the for each loop. So let's say for each, and here we are going to reference the categories, and here we are going to say category. Okay, and then let's copy this one and paste it here. Okay, and now here the value should be like this way. It should be category, then ID. Okay, and here we need to check this so that the old value should be category ID, which is this one, and here it should be category, then name, and if here I think we may need to remove this one in order for us to be able to work with this one. So let's remove that one, and here on the value we need to show the name. Okay, and now if we refresh again, okay, so it is throw this error in a controller because we didn't finish to add the fields. So let's go back to the controller and close here. So let's say this way. And here make sure that you import this class. Okay, so it will be added on here, and then after that let's go back in the refresh, and now you can see in the categories we have the category in our category field. So now let's style that field to be in a way that we want. So let's add this styling. So let's add that one here. Okay, now refresh again. Now you can see it has only the clothes category. So now what we are going to do next is to make sure that the user can have the option which will be saying choose category. So let's put it on top here. So let's say option, and then the value will be empty, and then we are going to say choose category. Okay, and then after that, if you go back to your browser, you can see we have two options. So the first one will be just for showing your user that you need to select the category here, and then you can have the list of your categories. Okay, so now let's complete the validation structure. So to do the validation here, okay, and what we are going to add in each of field, we are going to add this directives called the error, and then here it should reference the field name. So here it should be like that way, and inside that I'm going to pass the span, and that in that span I'm going to pass the message which will be thrown by the error, and then let's give it some styling. So let's say text danger, so that the text should be red, and then we may need to copy this one to be on every field. So now let's make it here, and it should change this one to here. The same way here, here it should be price, here it should be quantity, and here it should be category ID, and on this status should be status the same way to this one, which should be the image. Okay, so now after doing that, let's go back here and try to refresh, and we need to add the submit button in this form. So let's go back here, and below that we need to add the submit button, which will be submit button. So let's say button and select the submit one, and then here we're going to say save. Let's style it a little bit so it can look nice. So we're going to say button, then button success, or let's give it primary, and then I'm going to leave it that way. So now if we go back here, you can see we have the save button. So we need to add the cancel. Let's say here it should redirect the user to route, then product index, okay, and then this one should be cancel, and make sure that you style it to be a button. So it should be button, then button secondary, and refresh again. Now you can see we have this cancel button and save button. So if we click cancel, it should direct back here, and when you go back here, when we click save, it is supposed to submit our form. So now you can see here we are redirecting the request to this route, which will be in here, and then after that, this is the validation actually. Then if we want to save our data in our database after being validated, we are going to use this way. So we are going to store the product in this variable, and then in our product model we are going to use the create method, and then the attribute will be the validated fields from here. So I'm going to add the other remaining fields, which will be the last one, I believe, will be the status, and here the status should be required, and also the category ID should be required. And then after that, we are going to save our image. So before saving the data in our model, we need to save the image if the image is being uploaded. So to do so, we need to check with an if condition right here. So we are going to say if in our request object it has a file which is called the image, here we are going to say in our validated array, we are going to say this one should be assigned to this request file, okay, but we may need to store this image in our file system. So to store it in our file system, I'm going to say request, then file, which is our image, and then we are going to say store, Then we are going to store it in directory called the products, and then we are going to store it in a disk or in a directory called the public. Okay, so that's how we are going to upload our image, and after that is when you are going to save the data in your database. Okay, so now you may need this one, but for now I'll just remove it because we don't need anything to do with it. So now is where we are going to redirect back our user to the index page. So now let's say it will direct to product.index, okay, with a message which will be a success message, and here we are going to say product added successful. Okay, and then in our page, which will be the product listing, so product list, here we are going to show a flash message here. So I'm going to say, to show a flash message, I'm going to use an if condition. So I'm going to say if session has success, then inside here I'm going to say, I'm going to show a span with session, then get, then we are going to get the success message. Okay, the same way when we will have an error, so we're going to say error, and I'm going to show you how to show the error, but for now we will just only consider the success message. So now let's go back to the browser and refresh, and now if we try to save, this is validated through the form, but I want to make sure that it is validated through the data in here. So now let's go to the form, and you can remove the required attribute here, and then I'll just delete it. And then I'm going to save again and try to submit. Okay, so post method is not supported for route store product. Okay, yeah, I remember we changed this, we just copy and paste the route, but here it should be post. Okay, so now refresh again and you submit the form. Now you can see the name field is required, the price field is required, the quantity field is required, and this one is required too. So that's how easy you can just do that. So remember, we didn't do the validation for the image, so let's add the validation for the image right here. So here it should be image, and the image can be nullable, and then we are going to say it should be image. Then the memes for the type of image that you accept, you can have the JPG and PNG, and you can add more if you want. Okay, so now this is how easy you can just do the validation part. So now if we go back and refresh and save again, now you can see we have the validations. So for the image it will not be required because we made it to be nullable. Okay, so now let's try to add a real product. So let me just copy this one and run it through my another browser, which is this one. So this is how it looks like. So now let's add some dummy data, and then here let's say this should be active, and then instead of uploading an image, let's just upload this one without any image. So save. Now you can see the product added successfully, and here is the product that we have added. So now, in order for us to be able to upload the image, we need to make sure that we run this command to make sure that the storage system file is linked. So you need to say php storage link. Okay, after that, now you are able to upload any image. So now let's go back and try to upload the image. So now let's go to add new, and here we need to add some dummy data, and then upload an image. So let me just try to upload a dummy image. Let's say, for example, I upload that one. And now let's try to save. Okay, so you can see this is how it looks like. So now let's go to the database and try to see in our product table. Here you can see we have the image that you have uploaded, and that image will be also stored in our storage directory in our application. So here, storage, inside the app, public, you can see we have the products directory, and here is the image that we have uploaded. So now in our view, we can have the ability, we can make our user to have the ability to view the product that they have created. So this one, we need to make sure that it shows in green. So let's go back here and let's style that one to be in green. So we are going to say it should be an alert, and it should be alert success. It should have the padding of 2. So now let's try to add another product, and then you can choose the image that you want and then save. Okay, so here it's a data truncated. Right, this error, as you can see here, it goes and insert these values in product table. So you can see these are the fields that is going to insert. But if you can see the values here, you can see the difference, because the inactive field accept the enum values which we have inactive, but here it has an hyphen. So that is where the error comes in. So what we are going to do, in our field that is on the form, which is this one, here on the status, we need to make sure that the value should be in the dash active, not just active, inactive. And then here, the same way, it should be that way. Okay, so now let's go back and refresh. So it will still do the same way until we refresh the page and then create another product. Okay, so now you can see it looks nice, and that is what we were supposed to do. So now let's work on the new button here that will be allowing our users to view the product that they have created. So now to do so, let's start by creating the function in our product controller. So here let's create the show function. So we are going to have this ID, which will be the ID of the product that we want to show. And then we are going to find that ID in a product model. And then we are going to store it in this function. So then in this variable, with the one that we are going to pass here on the compact field. So here the file we need to create here, we need to call it show.blade.php, and then I want to generate this file automatically in order to simplify the thing. Okay, so now I'll paste the code and I'll explain to you. So here, as you can see, we are going to reference the layout, which will be the layout, and here we have the content in our section, because this one is, we just extended the layout that we have before. And here we have the product details, and inside the product we have the card and the card body. And here you can see this will be the name, description, price, quantity, category, status, and here you have the option to go to edit and also to go back to the product index. So now here we have the active, it will be success, and if it is inactive, it will be secondary. So this is a badge actually. So when you will use Bootstrap, you will find this class which is called badge, and I will show you how it looks like. And here in category, we need to reference through our relationship, which will be category then name. Okay, so now let's go back here. But here we have the number format function. If you don't know how it works, this will just format our value into decimal places. So you can see here it have the decimal places of 2. So that will just format our number in order to be human readable and well understood. So now here you can see I have an issue. Okay, so I think we didn't close this function right here. So here let's reference our file, which is called the product, then show, and then here let's close that function like that way. Okay, and then this should go in web.php here, and then this should be get, and this should be show product, and here it should be the function which is show, and here it should be product.show. So now this should go into the product listing as a link that is allowing our user to visit that page. So here let's add the table data, and then we are going to have an anchor tag with that route. So let's create the route, and then here we are going to have the product.show. Here we are going to say show, and then let's style that be a button. Then we can just say it should be success, then it should be small in size. And now let's see how it looks like. Now you can see we have the show button right here. So click the first one to see. Okay, so this says it's not found. So now let's see how. Okay, yeah, I forgot to add the brace bracket, so let me just cut that one and paste it inside the brace bracket. So it should be like that way, and then refresh again. Let's go back and refresh again, and now okay, so here in our show we have this one, and here you can see we don't pass the ID, because if you remember here we said we need to accept the ID value, which will be passed from here. So here we need to add actually the route parameter. So this one should be ID, and then that should also be placed here. So here we are going to pass the value of that ID. So we are going to say product, then ID. Okay, so now if we go back here and refresh, now you can see we have the product with ID of 2, and when we click show, now you can see the product edit not defined. So let's go back here. Okay, that is because in show here we have this route for editing. So now I can just comment it so that it will not throw any error. So now let's refresh again. And also the product index is not defined because I think that is mistyping there. And this is called product, not products. So let's change that one to product and refresh again. Now you can see we have the product, and this is the product details. So you can see it looks just normal. So you can see we have the product details, the name, description, price, quantity, category, and the status, which is active. And if you click back, it will direct you back to the list of product. If we go to this one, you can see that is how it looks like, this one, and it will show you the image that you have uploaded. So you can see this one have the image, and the image has been shown like that way. So you can style it more as the way that you want. So for example, I can just put all of this inside the container. So I'll just say container, and then everything will fall inside the container. So let me cut that one and paste it there. Okay, now refresh. Now you can see a little bit looks nice. Okay, so you can just style it as more as you want. So that is for the simplicity. And now let's go and add the edit button here so that the user can be able to edit the product. So now let's add the edit in our product listing view, which is this one. So here we have the show, so add the edit. So this should be product edit, and we need to pass the ID for editing, and then this should be primary. Okay, and this should be edit. Okay, now let's create this route. So this should be edit product, and here we need to have the edit and also this one. So now let's go to the controller and create this function or method. So now here let's create the edit. So it should be like that way. We are going to find the product from the product model by using the edit ID by the ID of that product. Okay, and then here we should have the product, then edit. So let's create this view. So let's create that view. It should be edit.blade.php. Okay, and then let's close this function. Okay, so now let's go back here. This is how it looks like. And now let's go back here and refresh. Now you can see we have this edit button. And now if we click that one, it will direct you to the blank page. So now let's create that edit.blade.php file. So remember, what we did, we just make the form to be reusable. So what I'll do, I'll just copy the entire create file, and then I'll edit some of the things. So this should be edit product, and here we are going to have the product update. That is the route that we are going to create in a minute. And here we reference the same form, and here it should be update, and the cancel should be also redirecting to that page. So now let's refresh back, and now you can see this route is not defined yet. So let's go and define that route in our web.php. So here I'll just copy this one, the post one, and then this one should be update product, and here it should be update product. So product update. Okay, and the last one will be for delete. So let's say destroy, and here it should be destroy product dot destroy. Okay, so after adding all of this route, now let's go back and refresh. Okay, so the categories we have not passed in a file here, so let's pass the categories. So it should be like that way, and then pass that category here in your compact function. And now let's go back and refresh, and now you can see this is how the form looks like. So here we have the product name, we have the description, price, quantity, and category, which is not selectable automatically. So what we are going to do, in order for the product to be the category to be automatically selected, we need to update the form. So here on the categories, let me update this one. So here, instead of having this choose category, we are just going to reference the product value. So here I'm going to say product, then category, then the name of our category. So now if we go back to the view and refresh, now you can see the category is selected automatically. So now the next part is to make sure that when the user will submit this form, it should be update any value that is updated here. So to do so, let's go and create that function here in our controller. So let's go down and create the update, and then here we are going to say the validated value. Okay, here on the validation, I'm going to copy the validation that we have right here. So let's go back here and paste that one. So let me delete that one. Okay, so it should be like this way. Okay, so here after validation, before you can start to update your data in your model, we need to have a check. So we are going to say if the request has a file, meaning that the user wants to update the data but have uploaded another image. So what we are going to do, if we have uploaded another image, means we need to delete the old image and replace it with the new image. So to do so, here we are going to have an if condition like that way. So if we have the file, let's add another if condition. So we are going to say if the request image and in storage, so let's use the storage facade. So we are going to check if the image exists. So here we are going to check on public disk, which is where we stored our image. So if that one exists there, here is where we are going to delete the existing image. So to delete the existing image, we are going to say storage, the facade one, and then we are going to delete the image from the public disk. So we are going to delete that an old image, and then we are going to store the new validated image as we did in the last function that we are creating the image. So here you can see we are going to then to assign that value of stored file, which is this one. We are going to store it in the product directory where we stored the first one, and then we are going to insert it inside the product directory, and then the disk should be public. Okay, so that path that we have stored the image is the one that we are going to assign to the validated image field or attribute. So after that, we can be able to update the value of our product. So now below the if condition, then we can just say product. So first of all, you can just say something like this. So you can say product, then find the ID, because here we have the ID which is coming from here, as you can see, which is this one. So it will be referenced here, and then we are going to find that product, and then when we find it, we are going to update the value of that model. So we are going to update it by using the validated values that we have included the new image that we have created. So now here we are going to redirect back our user to product.index, okay, with the success message of product updated successful. Okay, now if we go back to the view or to the browser and refresh, and now let's upload a new image, because this does not have any image, so this will be the first image to upload. So let me just upload any image. So let me upload that one, and then update. Okay, so here in product controller, this one has passed the too few arguments. Okay, update. Okay, so here means that in update function we didn't pass the ID. So let's go back here, and here on the edit form you can see we have the product update route, but here we say it should accept a parameter, as you can see here on the function. Let me just show you. Here on the function, you can see the function will pass the request and also the ID. So we need to pass the ID here. So let's add the ID, and that ID is coming from the route, which is from the edit, and then it will be passed down here. So now let's go and try again. Let's go back here. Okay, so that one. Okay, we need to update the update function. Okay, so now we need to pass down again that ID, as we added this one in our controller from the edit function, we need to pass that ID in here. So let's pass the ID, and now let's try. Now you can see this works fine. So now let's try to update. The category ID field is required. So now let's try again. Okay, so you can see the edit is working fine. So for example, if I update this one, I know that have the image. Okay, and now let's try to update this image. So let's update another image. For example, let's upload that one and then update. Okay, select that one, select the image again. Okay, so now it has updated. So let's show, and now you can see the images have been updated. Now let's see from the storage. Okay, so from the storage I've updated a lot of the image, so we may not be able to see the image that you have deleted. So but you have to understand that this is the functionality for deleting the old image and update it with the new image. So that's how this functionality works. And from here, what will remain is to have the destroy or the delete button. So let's add that one in our product list from here. So add the table data, and here you are going to have the form, which will be the post. Okay. Okay, so here let me just use the generated one. So I'll just generate this one, and then this one should be product destroy, and then here it should pass the parameter for product ID, and then the method should be post. Okay, and the button should be able to confirm. So when user will be clicking, so then we need to also to update the destroy route, because we didn't pass the ID from here. So we need to pass the ID like this way, or pass the ID like that way. And now let's go to the browse and refresh. Now we have the delete button, and now let's try to delete this one, because we need to actually create the destroy function. So let's go to the controller and create that function right here. So let's create the destroy, and we are going to find that product, and then we are going to redirect to product.index with a success message saying product deleted successful. And now we need to pause our function. Okay, so now let's go back and refresh, and now let's try to delete this one. It will ask you if you are sure, then click yes. Okay, so here the delete method is not supported for route this one. Okay, so we need to change that one, because here we use the delete method. So in your web.php file, instead of having the post here, we need to have the delete method. Okay, so now let's go back here, refresh, and let's try again to delete that product. So let's try. Now you can see the product deleted is successful, and here you will see we have remained with only 3 products. So now we have completed the Crud operation for product listing and everything. So now the next part is to add the search functionality. So let's work on that in a minute. So because we have this search field already, so what I'm going to do is just to make sure that when the user will click this one, it will check for the value that is here, and then it will filter this data according to the value given here. And when the value will be empty, it will not search for anything. So now let's start by going to the model, I mean the controller. In our index function here, we need to make sure that we check the search functionality. So let's try to add it here. Okay, so here what we are going to do is first to update the way we were querying the data from the model. So we are going to create a new variable which will be called the query, and then this will store the query in this way. So let me just comment this one, and then down here we are going to check. So we are going to say if the request has so here we are going to say if the request has a search field and the request which we need to pass here the request. So let's pass here the request, then request. Okay, so after that means here we can access if the search is on that object. Okay, and after checking that, then we need to have a query. Okay, so here let me first close the if condition, and in this query that we are going to check in order to search, we are going to check for 2 fields. So the first one will be the name and the second one will be product description. So let's check first with the name. So what we are going to do next is to check the name. So I'll say query, and then it will be equals to query where, then here we are going to match the name field if the name field will be like. So if you have used the queries from MySQL database, you will be able to understand this. So we are going to check if the name field, when you use the operator called like, means you are going to check from your database if any value of your column will be either start with, so for example in a query, if you just only the percentage before the query parameter, it will only check if the value that you have passed starts with the value of any of your value in that column. But if you put both on the start and the end of your parameter, means it will check for the whole value. So this is how you are going to check. But if you will put only here, it will check if that value ends with the same value as that one. So thus you can just read more on the Laravel documentation, and you'll be able to see that. So the first one we have checked for the name. So we'll check if the name is like the request value that has come with the request value from here, and we are going to check the value of search. Okay, so now let's check again for the description. So let's move it up to here. then we are going to say or where so the column now should be description, and then we are going to say like then the value should be checked by using the percentage value. So since we are checking on both sides, so it will be like this way. So we're just going to check for the whole value that is coming from the request. So here I'll just change this one to request like that way. So it will be the same here and here. And then after that, down here, we are going to create the new products variable, and then we are going to say that will be so we can just say we can just paginate our data. Let's say to 10 by default, so it will be like that way. So means we are going to have the list of our products that will be generated either by just searching, or if we don't have any search value, the query will just query the value from the product and it will just paginate them to 10 data. So then in our list here, we are going to be able to show the paginated data. So to show the paginated data, when we go to this view, let me just zoom back a little bit so that we can see. So from here, we want to show the paginated data. So to show the paginated data, we can just only show here below the table. We can just show something like this. So we can just say products, then links. Okay, so that function will return the links that you have paginated and it will show them accordingly. So now if we go back here and refresh, since we have only 3 data, you cannot see the list of paginated values. So for example, we may change the value. Instead of being 10, we can just say 2, and then you refresh back, and now you can see we have the previous and the next. So meaning that you can see we have 1, 2, 3 to 2 of 3 results. So that's how easy you can just add the pagination in your application. Okay, but now if you scroll down a little bit, you will see these weird arrows, and you can see they are not well structured. So meaning we need to tell Laravel to use Bootstrap instead of Tailwind CSS to style our pagination values. And this is because by default Laravel will use the Tailwind CSS to style all of your Blade files. So now we need to tell through the app service provider. So let's go to app service provider, and here inside the boot method we need to say paginator, which is this one, use Bootstrap. Okay, and make sure you have imported this one and this one too. And then now if we go back here and refresh again, Now you can see this is styled well, and you can see here there is nothing like that weird arrows. So now the pagination works just fine. You can go to the page 2, you can see here, and you can go back to page 1. So that's how cool Laravel is. You can just switch from Bootstrap to Tailwind and Tailwind to Bootstrap just in a breeze. So that's all about the pagination. So for now, I can just come back here, and for example, you can use the latest function that has been added by Laravel. So you can just use the latest and do this way, because this latest will just order your data by their created arch field. So it will just check for the most latest values by ordering them by using the order by using the created arch field. So if you put that way, means that the new created values will be sorted first, or they will be fetched first, then the old one. So for example, you can see here we have the test product as the first one, but if I refresh, you can see it will change and the test product will be on the second page. So you can just do those latest version of Laravel, because as I mentioned before, this is Laravel 12 application, so you have to use all of the concepts that have come with the Laravel 12. So after doing that, now we need to add the search functionality to this view, because we have just done that in our index here in our controller. So we have this one. So the pagination works just fine. So now let's go and check if this search functionality works as we expected. So now let's go here in our search form, which is this one. We need to add the action. So we are going to say this will be route, which will be referencing the product index, and it will just be like that way. And here we need to have the CSRF. Okay, and the last thing that we need to do is to make sure that this have the name of search, because this will be search, and this is the value that we are checking here. So make sure that that name, which will be search, is the same that as the name that you use in your controller. Okay, after doing so, this should be a submit button, and also we need to give the method here. So the method will be get, because this route already we have it, and it's a get route. Here you can see, which is this one. Okay, so now let's go back here and refresh, and now let's try to search for this one maybe. So let's start with mail and search. Now you can see the search functionality works as we expected. So that's how easy you can just do searching. And here you can see you have the token that has been created. So this is all for the security purpose. So this is how Laravel works. So now let's go back here, and this, for the sake of pagination, I'll just increase the number, because that was just for testing. So here I'll just say up to, let's say, 8 product. That is when we are going to start to paginate the value. So already you see the pagination works just fine. So just make sure you do that. Okay, so now the next step, because already we have this one, so the next step is to show you how you are going to deal with the soft deletes. Okay, so let me just show you how you are going to use the soft delete functionality. So it is just easy. I will just add here the button so that you can be able to navigate to the deleted values. So let me just add that button there. So let's go to the product list here, and then here inside the add new, let's add the deleted. So here I'll just say deleted products, and here I'll just say show deleted. Okay, and this should be warning. Okay, and now if I go back here and refresh, this should be like that way. So I just want to make sure that these two float on the same field. So let me just say flex. Okay, so flex does not work as we expected. So what we can do, we can just create a simple row and 2 columns. Let me just say 2 columns. And then here we can just pass the first field, which is our button, and then the second one will be in here, and then also there. Now we have something like that. So now let's refresh. Okay, so this is column. So we have row, column 1 and column 2. Okay, so for example, we can just make sure that this, let's say it uses up to 6, and then this one uses up to 6. So now let's see. Okay, so you can see this is how it looks like now, but you may need to style it to be a little bit good, but for the sake of a video, I'll just leave it that way. Okay, and now the next thing is to add the route that will be redirecting us to the page that we are going to see the list of data. Okay, so now as you can see in our database here, you can see we have 5 products, but here in our view or in our browser you can see we have 3 products. So what is happening when you delete a value from here? For example, if I try to delete the first one like this way, you can see it has been deleted, but in reality in your database, if you refresh, you can see still the product is there. So what is happening? This is what is called the soft delete. So here you can see the value of the deleted art is filled with this value. So you can see this is when you deleted the value. So that's how, and that is what makes the values to not be deleted, and just only to update this value. And after updating this value, Laravel automatically use the global scope, which is called the soft delete, and in that scope, meaning that it will retrieve only the data that this field is empty or null. So you can see only the data that will be retrieved in your view will be only the values with null data. So you can see here we have the test product and this one. So if we go back here and refresh again, you can see we have the test product and Doris Phillips. So if you come back here, you will see that is the 2 products that remained and will be able to be shown here. So that's the a good explanation that I can give you concerning the query scopes. So in the next video, I'll show you a Laravel tips on how you are going to use the global scopes and the local scope, and how you are going to use them in your Laravel application. So for now, that is all about what I can say. So what we are going to do next, we are going to be able to show the list of products that have been deleted, but that is what we call soft delete. Means that the data is just hidden but not deleted completely. And the best part about it, you can be able to restore them or to delete them permanently. So let's work on this button so that we can be able to show the deleted data. So to fasten that thing, we are going to create a new page that will be able to list this data. So I'll just copy this. I'll be copying these pages so that we can fasten the thing. So now let's go back here and open the page. Here on our product, we are going to add a new file that we are going to say deleted products.blade.php, and here we are going to copy this page and paste it inside here. After that, we are going to reduce some of the things from here. So for example, the create new, we are going to remove it. Okay, and what we will do here, instead of deleted, we are going to redirect our user to the product index. So let's add here the route. So let's redirect our user here, and then this link will be view all products. Okay, and here we don't need these rows and the column, so let's remove that and remain with something like that. Okay, so now here we are going to change also these things. So here we are not going to be able to have the edit value, so remove the edit. So let's go back here and remove the edit functionality. Okay, so remain with the show, and here on the delete or destroy, we are going to implement a new functionality for permanently deleting, and here instead of having the edit, we are going to have the restore button. So this, instead of being edit, we will call it restore, and this one will be delete as well. So here we'll say, are you sure? Like that way. So means this will change, instead of being delete, it will be permanently delete, and here instead of being product edit, it will be product restore. Okay, so let's keep it that way, and here we'll just say delete. Okay, so we are going to create these two new functionality. So let's start by creating the functions in our controller. So let's go back here and let's start by creating the first one, which will be for destroying the product, which will be the permanently delete. So let me just create that function like that. Okay, and then the second one will be for restoring the product. So we are going to say public function restore product. Okay, so here on restoring, you are just going to have the ID of that product, the same way that you are going to have the product that you want to delete. But what we are going to do, I will just show you in a minute. So let me just remove it again. Now let's go and create the route for that. So let's go back here, and here we are going to have something like this, and here we are going to say product restore or restore product, and here we are going to pass the ID of the product that we want to restore, and here we are going to pass the name of the method that we are going to use, which will be restore product. So let me just paste it there, and then let's close that and keep it that way, and here the name will be product dot restore. Okay, and the last one, remember this should be the post method, and we have the delete one, which also should be the post method, and this should be delete because we have the destroy, so this should be delete. Okay, and then this one should use the destroy product method, okay, which will be the force delete. So here it will be product delete. Okay, so this is called the force delete, and this will call the product model restore. So that's how easy you're just going to add those two routes. And then back to here, the first one. So when you want to restore the product, this is what we are going to do. Okay, and here in order for you to be able to first, you need to be able to see the list of deleted product. We need to have the function that will be able to retrieve the deleted function, products. So here we are going to say we want to see the trashed products. Okay, so we are going to have something like this, and here we are going to get the only trashed products. So here we are going to return the view. That is the view that we have created here, which is called deleted products. So let's say deleted products. Okay, so this is the file. So here it is supposed to be inside the products. So it will be product dot deleted products, and then here we are going to pass the products that we have. But remember, in this page we've copied the page for the one that does not been deleted, so means we need to add the pagination in here. So instead of get, we are going to say paginate, then we are going to paginate by 5, let's say. Okay, and also we have the search functionality right here. So if we have the search functionality, means we can just copy what we have from here, which is this one. So we can just copy this one. What we are going to change is just to get only the trashed and not all product. So let's change this one to be that way, and here we need to pass the request first. So let's put the request. Okay, and then no, this should be a request, then a request, and here we have the products, which will be here, and here let me just say 5. Okay, and here instead of getting all the product, we need to get only the trashed one. So to do so, let's say only trashed. Okay, so by adding this function means it is going to build the functionality of soft delete, and it will get only the deleted data. So here, after being able to destroy the value, we need to have the route, so that is going to allow us to get the deleted products. Okay, and here the method is called trashed products. So let's paste it there, and then we are going to have the name of our route, which will be product dot trash. Okay, and now let's copy that route, which is our route name, and that is the one that we are going to have it in our product list. So here it should be route. Okay, so it will be that way. And now let's go back to the view, which is and then after refreshing, now if we click this show deleted values, you see it has redirected us to the deleted products, and here you can just see the product list, and here you can see the restore, show, and delete, and here you can see we have view all products. When you click that one, it will direct back to the products. You can see from the URL there. If we go back to show deleted one, you can see this is a list of the deleted products, and from here you can still be able to search. So you can see this will say nothing to be found, because let me just show you. Okay, so now if you search for anything, you will still not get the values that you want. It will just return no data found. So here the issue is because the request is sent to this link, which is not the one that we want. So what we are going to do next is to change that path to be the one that shows the deleted one. So let's start by changing that in our view, which is called the deleted product. So from here in search, you can see this is redirecting all the query from here. So here we need to change that to be redirecting the queries to the deleted product. So to this one, so let's copy that product.trashed, and then let's go here and change this one to product.trashed, and then from here you can see here the query will not have the deleted one, because only here we've changed for the deleted one. So to avoid this issue, we are going to cut that and paste it here. So that's how you are going to get the query that will be containing only the trashed values, and then when you will search, it will search for only the trashed values. So now let's go back here and refresh, go to show deleted values, and then here search for this one, and then if you search, okay, still it redirects us to this page. Okay, let me see here. Now let's see back in our code. Oh, we have just changed the wrong field, so this is not from here. Let me just return it as it was. We need to change from the form, which is the form for the search. So let's change from here to be product, then let's trash, and then now let's go back here and go to the show the deleted one, and then search. Now you can see we have that product, and you can see this is on deleted product route, and here you can see we have the view all product option, show the deleted one. You can see this is how easily you can just do that functionality. So now let's work on how you are going to restore that product. So to restore that product, let's go back to the controller. Here we have the list of product, and now when we get that product from here, then we are going to say product restore. So for example, here I'll just return and redirect to product dot index with the success message saying product restored successfully. Okay, that way. And now let's go back here and refresh. So this is on deleted products, as you can see from here. Now I want to restore the second product, so let me click restore. Okay, so the get method is not supported for route this one. Okay, let me go back here. Oh, I remember, because we didn't change this one to get, so the restore, this should be get as we did it from there, but we may change it from being a get. We can change that one to be the form. So let me just come back here from the list, and here instead of just saying restore, we can just use the similar way as when you do a delete product. So let's change that one here, remove that one and paste it that one. So here we are going to say product restore, and we are going to pass that ID. So this should be a post, and then here we are going to say are you sure. Then the method, this should be post, okay, and the button should be restore. Okay, so now let's refresh back. Let's go back, refresh. Okay, so this should not be red, it should be let's say primary, or let's just keep it info. Refresh, and now when we click restore and say yes, okay, this call to a member function restore on null, so meaning that this is null, we didn't get that value. So let's go back here and see this one is product restore. Let's check for that. Okay, so this one here, product restore. Okay, so now let's see from the controller. Okay, so this should have the request, and also the ID. Okay, so from there I believe that will work just fine. Or the shortest way we can do it, you can just leave it to this way, and what we can do, we can just change this method. Instead of being post, we can just leave it as put, and then in our deleted list here, we can just change this one to put. And now let's try again and see what happens. Let's go back, refresh, and now let's try to restore. Yes. Okay, still we get the same error. Now let's see. Meaning that this value is empty, and is empty. Why? Let's see from here. Because here we have the product ID, which will be passed at the parameter. Okay, so from the quick view here, you may not be able to see the issue, but here you can see it says the function that we call, which is restore, is called on null, meaning that that product cannot be found here. So why it cannot be found here? And this is the best way that you can use to debug some errors like this one. So here you need to understand the scenario. So here we are trying to restore the deleted product. So if you are trying to delete the deleted product, to restore the deleted product, means you need to find it inside the list of deleted product. But here you can see we are trying to find it from the list of all product. So meaning here on this list, the deleted product will not be included. So that's why you get an error. So here we need to say we need to find only the trashed product. So here add the only trash D, then you can just say find. Okay, so you can just use find or fail, so you to be able to avoid some errors when it will not be found. So in that way, this will work as we expected. So now let's try to refresh and try to delete, to restore, and then restore that one. Now you can see the product restored is successful, and here you can see the product is there. Okay, now we need to make sure that when we go to show the deleted one, we need to be able to delete that product completely, or to do something that is called the force delete. So let me just shift that product to be here. Let me delete some empty spaces. So from here on the delete part, we need to get that product from the list of trash D product. So what we are going to do is to find the product. So let's say the product will be from only trash D product. So when you say trash D, as we've used here, is to get all the products that have been deleted by using the soft delete functionality. And then after getting it, we are going to check, instead of just deleting the product automatically, we need to check if that product has an image. So let's have an if condition right here, which we are going to say if the product image and we are going to say if the storage, okay, then we are going to use the exists to check if it has that image. So we are going to say product, then image. So if it exists, then we need to delete that image. So we are going to say storage, then delete that image, so that when you delete that product, also its image will be deleted from the storage file from here. Okay, so now after checking if it has the image, then we are going to delete that image. If it does not have, we're just going to force delete that product. Then after that, we are going to redirect back to product.index with the success message saying product was deleted successfully. Okay, and let's go back here in our browser, refresh. Now we are here on the deleted products, and this is mail pane. So let's see if we delete and say yes. Okay, so delete method is not supported for the route. That one supported method is post. So let's see from here. The method is post. So here we need to change it to delete because we are deleting that product. So let's go back here and try to delete. Now you can see the product was force deleted. So now let's go to show deleted product. Now you can see we don't have any deleted product. If you go back to all the list, you can see this is the list of your product. So as you can see, until now we have done the Crud operation for the product, but we didn't do anything with categories. So what I'll do, this will be as your quiz or your testing. So you need to make sure that you did the same thing that we did for the product. You may redo it by using the categories, because now the categories is just empty. So you need to redo that in categories to include the following features. The first one, to be able to add a new category, to be able to show the category, to be able to edit and delete, which is the soft delete, because we already have added the soft delete functionality in our category model. As you can see, the category also have the soft delete functionality. So you need to add the soft delete to be able to show the deleted categories, to be able to search for the categories, and after that you may say you have completed this Laravel 12 Crud operation guide. So from there, this marks the end of our amazing tutorial. So I believe, guys, you have learned a lot from this tutorial, and if you find this video helpful, please share with your friends, like it, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. So I'd like to hear you in your comment section if you feel anything that I need to improve, and anything that you feel is quietly not being touched. I can do it in the next videos. So